three baskets. I mean, cots full of that stuff for their hotel. And when they buy from other people for the hotel, they gonna pay big money. And he was almost like giving it away because he was trying to get that. But he didn't say minimum as much as that meant. I mean, they will come in at corn and stuff. They will have like this thing full and stuff for their hotels and stuff. And you go back there and you got your basket to get something for your family. It's not there because they got the sale. And they got the sale paper first. They put him under. And then they started messing with him when he got that one in the bottom at Churchill over there.
Yeah, on Main Street.
Yeah. They did him under.
Yeah, they put him on business. But so that's why he won the lawsuit, but he can't disclose.
Right.
You know, they should allow him to speak on what they did, but the courts let it be quiet so the white folks that did him wrong can still make money.
UCOX, I thought UCOX was a pretty nice people. But I know they started hiring.
I remember I was working down at City Hall. UCOX is down at City Hall almost every day.
But right now in the city of Richmond, the only place that they've got Kroger's and the only place that they had UCrops and then the company that took over from UCrops, the only places that they have those stores and whatnot, or like downtown and whatnot, were the University of, VCU down there. Down there where Donnell used to work, where he and I used to work down there, and up on Carey Street, they got them up there. And,
there. For me, it's there.
They don't have them in the black neighborhoods where it's predominantly now. Right on the line and whatnot, when you go into the county and whatnot, they might have them out there.
Kroger not in town.
No, but not in the city.
They keep us with food lines.
Stop scaring me. You're scaring me. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. You're scaring first.
Look at the dog. Come here. Look at the dog.
All the blacks and whatnot
What dog?
Over there.
have to go
There's a dog over there.
to wherever the stores are.
Or whatever they can't get there, gotta pay somebody $20 to go.
On the TV.
And on the south side and whatnot out there around Post, in those areas and whatnot, I ain't never seen.
It's gone now.
Real grocery stores out there. I'm talking about like Kroger and the ones that they brought from overseas, the people who own them and whatnot. What's the one that you were telling me about?
Aldi? Can't stop it.
Yeah, maybe that's one of them.
Okay, I'm just gonna sit down.
Publix, that's the one that replaced the one that the UCrops. They don't even have. I don't even think that they got one of them in Richmond, period. And they're not even from the United States and whatnot. They're from
Germany, okay.
Yeah, one of them is from Germany and one of them is from England. But it's amazing that these people will, and they only replace, if they the stores that they replaced and whatnot was UCrop, and they only replaced them in certain locations and whatnot. They chose wherever they were.
They've opened another store somewhere now.
Looking at
Who?
me. Not looking at me.
No.
He's not staring at me.
Another store.
Staring at people, not how I love.
The business is still going.
But it's near more white folks.
Don't do that again.
And if they have them in Richmond and whatnot, they're going to be in neighborhoods and whatnot where there's white folks.
Period.
Just doesn't make any sense. Not in this day and age and whatnot. It didn't make no sense back in the day and whatnot. But it's going to turn around and whatnot because I mean, I
There's something that has a cover.
watched Washington D.C.
No,
and
this is
whatnot.
house. This is not
I
house.
moved
I don't want to
from
bother
South,
you.
I moved from South Carolina
Drama.
to D.C. in 1954, and the nation's capital in 1954. That's the year that they integrated the schools and whatnot. Now, can't you imagine me coming from South Carolina to D.C. in 1954, and that was the first time ever and whatnot that I had ever done anything in the same midst of a white child.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to act.
No. Oh, you getting some of this stuff?
No, I gotta put that in the refrigerator. I got a piece of chicken and some.
But you know, it's kind of funny and whatnot being in D.C. and we called it. You used the terminology a couple minutes ago and whatnot about white flight because the white people moved out of Washington D.C. If they moved across Southern Avenue, Eastern Avenue, those are the avenues on that particular side and whatnot that separates D.C. from Maryland. And if they just moved on the other side of the Southern Avenue, that would have put them with a Maryland address.
Mm-hmm.
So their kids and whatnot would go to. And can you imagine at Bolin Air Force Base? That was one of the only military base except for Fort McNair. Fort McNair, Bolin Air Force Base, and the people from Bolin Air Force Base and whatnot that was in the military, their kids and whatnot, they didn't have a school on the base and whatnot, so they had to come up across Suitland Road and whatnot, Suitland Highway, up on this hill and whatnot to Douglas Junior High School. That's where I was going. And there was a guy that was eventually made general. And he lived down there at Bolin Air Force Base, and his son was maybe 13, 14 years old. Mm-hmm. And he was going to school with black kids and all that. And he got along with them very well. Mm-hmm. I guess his father told him, that's just the way
Sure he did. We were talking about calling it white flight, and I was trying to think of a name to call it now. What came to mind, instead of calling it white flight, what it used to be, we'll call it white push.
Yeah.
Because they're pushing you out now.
Yeah, you can ask your cousins,
And now they're back.
like John asked them about Washington D.C. back in the day. They wasn't around. They wasn't like they're not as old as I am.
John. I knew John ain't never been up.
Yes, he has.
No, he been there, but he never was raised. Yeah, because he born down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
his mama.
John never worked up there.
His mama and
I ain't talking about
Joey,
working up there. I'm talking about going to
Joey and
school
all
up
of
there.
them are still up there. Laverne.
Laverne went back.
Yeah. Laverne been back with her daddy.
But in D.C., oh man, it was in the black neighborhoods now. Man, I got a first cousin.
He used to call it Dark City, Chocolate City.
Chocolate City, yeah. But I don't know what they call it now, but it ain't chocolate. But they got all the people moving out of Washington D.C. and the Prince George's County. Some of them might move in Montgomery County, which PG County is like northeast, going in that direction. But in the other county that goes through Silver Spring and whatnot, that was always.
It sounds familiar, but I couldn't picture.
Yeah.
I remember hauling up that way.
Yeah. But well, my cousin bought a house for $17,000 in 1962-63. $17,000 and on that same house, he and his wife raised their kids in it and whatnot, and the kids done went out and bought houses and whatnot. That house cost $850,000. We went from 17,000, and it's right down the hill from Howard University. And all of the houses
It's
and
happening
whatnot,
the same way, right in Richmond,
yeah.
same way.
And they knock on his
Take
door.
everything back from the black folks.
They knock on his door 8, 9, 10 times a day and whatnot, asking, when are you gonna sell your house? And right up the street from him on the corner of Rhode Island Avenue and where Rhode Island and Florida Avenue run in, there's a house up there and whatnot that's on the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be on one street on one side and another street over here. But wherever his main door is, then that's what justifies his address being on that particular street. That house is going for more than $1 million. Because it's got two sides.
2 more years, they're gonna make it so they're gonna have to move.
And they're redoing the streets and whatnot. White people don't drive cars downtown to work. Most of them work in the government downtown.
Mhm.
They ride bicycles and whatnot, so they're redoing the streets.
Bike lane.
They're taking one of the lanes and making a bike lane. And back in the day when they built those houses and whatnot, people only had one car per family per house and whatnot. They redo them houses and whatnot because back then there wasn't no birth control and whatnot, so they had, houses with 4 and 5 bedrooms and whatnot. Now they redo the inside of the house and whatnot, and they have two different families living in one house and whatnot, so that's a possibility that they might have
Stop looking at me.
3 or 4 cars.
Mm-hmm.
And they changed
I want
the
to
way
hide.
that you park.
Okay.
You have to have a sticker on your car that you live in that neighborhood. And if you come and visit and whatnot, they come out every hour and mark your tire and whatnot, and if they come back in the next hour and your car is still there, then they can have it towed away. Now my cousin has where he had a yard with grass back there. He got rid of the grass and whatnot and had it cemented it in and whatnot. And he got room for 2 cars and whatnot, one for his wife and one for him.
Kill all that.
And when he would tell me whenever I'm coming up to visit him, that he'll go out there and check.
Mommy, you
And when
know
the
that
spot
means
comes open,
you're better
he's also
sleep.
got that sticker on his car. He
You're
can park out there
yawning.
and whatnot, and
That
when I
means
get
you
there,
gotta
I'll park
sleep.
in-
Okay.
Park in one of his spots. Whatnot, It's amazing how he is. And it's amazing how they take money for public schools. That's how it's allocated, public schools.
Mm-hmm.
They've got schools that they're giving money to right here in Richmond and whatnot, and they're not public schools.
The Academy of Human Beings.
They make a way. They'll make a way that they can get the money.
They put 2 token blacks in that school, the academy, so they can get some tax. They can get a cut
Mm-hmm.
from the federal government. They got 2 token blacks. They may have 4 by now. I don't know how long.
And the
in
mayor,
academy,
and the mayor,
They had to get token black.
the
So
mayor,
they get
for the
the-
money.
the mayor of Richmond and whatnot today know that they're giving money and whatnot to private schools and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Is it vouchers? What do they call it? Vouchers?
Yeah.
Is it vouchers or something?
They got
are
different
getting
names.
enough so that the government will pay a lot of money, the federal government.
They always fix something so they can have an out.
Hmm?
There's always an out. And people
Yeah,
crying about,
they-
back to whatever. You go to all these farms, all of them, everywhere you go, they get money.
Remember that little girl that lived when I lived on Chamberlain Avenue? Remember that little girl that lived remember when I lived on Chamberlain Avenue, that little girl that came from New York down there, and she was living with her aunt. They put her in a school on Chamberlain Avenue that her great grandmother would have gone to that school. That's how old the school is. But up on the corner of it's up the street from Brook, where Brook crossed Laburnum. A.P. Hill's statue is up there where that intersection is. Whoa!
What did she hit?
A.P. Hill's statue is right there. There's a new
That's her
school
box.
right there on the corner.
Wait a minute, we just paved that. I think, okay.
Get livery.
What's the with Greyhound bus station on? Boulevard?
Yeah, I just
Boulevard.
have.
What are you doing?
Okay, if you get
Wait.
off, if
I
you get
have
on
dry
9564,
skin
whatever it is right there.
You need a nail cutter. We're gonna
Come
go.
toward Arthur
Maybe I
Ashe,
have
where
to.
Arthur
Maybe
Ashe
I
is right
could.
there.
Right over
You
there.
make a left. On
I just
past
need
that,
to.
You pass the bank that got that train behind it.
I just
If
need
you
to
keep
find
going
my nail
through that light,
cutter.
You come up there on the
Okay.
left. That brand new
I
school.
will find
You
it.
go under the underpass
Okay.
first.
I said,
That's it.
Mama, you better.
I saw it. I saw this past summer. I said,
black.
"Good day."
Over
We just paved all that.
Right.
I thought
Now-
you better sleep.
Where I used to live, you came down to my house.
The eyes are
down
blind,
there
that means
in
you better sleep.
There was a little girl. who
I'm
used
very
to live
sleepy.
across, right next
No.
to where I live.
I need a sleep.
They were sending her up there to a school on Chamberlain and whatnot by the firehouse and whatnot. That school was there in the 1860 something, and it's still being used for the black kids that live in that neighborhood. But that's low budget area and whatnot. They had that girl.
Get
She
asleep,
came from
babe.
New York and whatnot. And they had her going to that school and whatnot, and she told her aunt, I don't know what happened. I think her mother was on drugs or something like that and whatnot. And they, her aunts were taking care of her grandmother. And she told them that she wanted to go to another school because they weren't teaching her
Hey, you're not.
that she needed to get. And her aunt went to the school board and whatnot and told them that there was a school closer. As a matter of fact, where I lived and whatnot, right behind there was a fence there and whatnot, and there were houses there and whatnot that was going for $200,000 and $400,000 and whatnot, and all of their kids and whatnot was going up there to this new school. And they lived, there's only a fence between where I was living and where they were living. And she told them what school she wanted her niece to go to. And they said, well, okay, we don't have school buses and whatnot to come through there and whatnot that can pick her up and take her. Yeah, but the people who live right on the other side of this fence and whatnot, where she said, well, I tell you what, don't even worry about it. I just want her to go to that school and whatnot, and I'll take her and whatnot. I'll ride the public bus that comes up Laburnum Avenue. I'll catch the bus with her in the morning, and I'll come up there and pick her up in the afternoon because they didn't have a car or anything like that. And that's what she did. And she was on the honor roll in a white school. Wasn't that? It was pathetic. When I moved back to South Carolina when I was 14 years old, I went back to South Carolina and that was, they weren't even integrated. The schools in South Carolina wasn't even integrated then. It wasn't integrated when I graduated from high school.
Probably still not integrated.
When I moved back from DC back to South Carolina, when the curriculum that they had in the schools in South Carolina was at the middle school level and when I was in high school. I graduated from high school valedictorian and whatnot because I was taking the same thing that I had in the same thing that I had in DC when I was in middle school, well they call it junior high.
You already did it.
I had already done it, and they couldn't figure, oh, he is smart, and I ain't never told him no different, that I didn't never tell him that I already had that in classes.
Let me seal that in. Fix it. You want to fix the tape?
It just long as this lasts till I get over there, it'll be alright. Yeah, oh yeah, that actually got another new movie. He's playing it again. It's about a white cop that killed his son, and he's going.